Oh, yes.
It's coffee time. Get up.
Maybe that's what I need is coffee. Start drinking.
Yeah, you do. You need to switch to coffee, buddy.
Switch over
Get,
to coffee.
get away from that monster drink until they become a sponsor, and then we'll both drink it.
I wonder if they the problem with coffee in me is it usually upsets my stomach after a while. But maybe it's one of the things. Maybe it's one of those things where I just gotta get my body used to it.
Yeah, that's
You know
probably
what
what
I'm
it is exactly. Ted was on earlier asking me where we were. Said that there wasn't anything on YouTube yet.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that well, I have the worst luck apparently because StreamYard was acting weird last night, so I couldn't set up anything. And then, um, like, okay, so the camera that I have is the Logitech Brio, and if anybody knows Logitech equipment, Logitech pretty much makes all the leading webcams right now, anyway. Um, in terms of like USB plug in and go webcams. So I have a Logitech Brio, and it is what is it $200.
I was
This
gonna
webcam.
say piece of shit.
Yeah, it's $200,
What?
and it has the ability to stream in 4K,
Yeah.
and it desperately wants to film me in 4K. Um, StreamYard can't stream in 4K yet.
Morning, Joshua Perry is in the house.
Hey, it's good morning. And
Morning.
so
We're a little late, but we're getting rolling.
that's one of the issues is that it whenever I try to sign on, sometimes StreamYard does not recognize my camera doesn't recognize StreamYard, and I have to make them work together. And some mornings or some days, it's harder than others. But
You need to get up earlier and get things rolling.
yeah, I feel bad because it's like I want to stream in 4K. I want everybody to see every pock and mark on my face. Actually, that'd be cool.
I was gonna say you don't have to stream in 4K, buddy.
Yeah, I want everyone to see me for the
Lord
troll
knows
that I am.
we both have faces made for radio.
Oh, good morning, everyone.
We should all probably podcast with Jolly Bee anyway. No?
Yeah, and who's it?
Should have a Jolly Bee broadcast.
What's the guy's name?
I'd make those guys happy if they, actually see us since they're over on the West Coast.
Yeah. Oh, and then let me see here. So we are live now. We are live on Facebook, on Twitter.
And we have stuff to talk
Twitch.
about today.
Yeah. So we're going to roll the intro, and me and Randy be right back.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Depends on my camera stays.
Will we survive the intro? Stay tuned. One quick coughing jag later.
Yeah, I seen you cough in the little green room screen.
Yeah.
How's that cough hanging in there, Randy? I mean, you've gotten it's hanging around, doesn't want to leave.
Yeah, I went to urgent care on Tuesday to try to get rid of it, and then I had a funeral yesterday, and I was completely wiped out yesterday. I mean, I didn't work on nothing. I was kind of upset at myself because I have invoices that need to go out, money to be called for, and I haven't written the invoices up yet. That's what I'm going to do right after the show.
Yeah.
So, and then hopefully get back up on my project for live streaming. Have to jump off again for a second.
All right.
I'll just mute it so nobody has to hear it.
You know, Randy's one of the rare artists that can write an invoice and actually get it paid.
Well, when you have a lot of commercial clients, that usually happens.
Yeah.
You know, when you're working in independent comics and you're doing individual stuff, it's almost like spinning the wheel and how much do you trust somebody? At least it seems that way.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of times where I've been burned. So that's one of the reasons I stopped doing Arrow the second time outside of dealing not a smaller reason. The major reason was Diamond and the fact that we weren't getting any type of representation to the retail outlet. I didn't think that was, very fair on their part, the way that we were being treated. But also is the fact that I had a couple of creators that went over the edge because they thought one thing and that's not the way that we worked. And They started complaining and then got pretty hostile against Arrow in general. So I said, you know what? Screw it. Don't have to do this. I'll just do a 3-issue treaty on the comic market called Spank the Monkey on the Comic Market, and then go and do my own books.
Trico says, I almost forgot what today, what today was. Yeah.
You still have this group too, Trico? That's you're gonna have to get a calendar.
Yeah. Um,
Because all of yesterday outside of that funeral was gone. I was in a fog. I was walking around trying to stay awake, and luckily I'm on a regimen of antibiotics now. I'm semi-conscious, and plus I have my coffee.
um, Randy, one of the questions that we didn't get around to the Ask Me Anything was one of the someone wrote in. I don't have the question up because the Ask Me Anything sometimes clears them out. It
Hmm.
chooses when it wants to clear the questions out. And but I did read one of them, and I apologize. I don't know who wrote it in, but they said there seems to be a lot of misinformation and miseducation in the comics community, be it in the curators spectrum and in the as far as the retailers are concerned.
Yeah.
And we talk about that, but
Yeah,
who's
we do.
majorly to blame for that? You think? You think it's Diamond?
Oh no, no, no. I don't think that's the major problem. I'm moving my camera, by the way,
Mhm.
just in case you think I'm not having an earthquake at my house.
It's there. I'll fill it soon. I'll fill it soon. Good morning,
Is it
Ted.
is it Diamond's fault? Is it the retailer's fault? Is it the comic media's fault? Is it the mainstream's fault? That's a really good question. It's everybody's fault.
Hmm.
It's the I think the largest problem as far as gathering information now, especially now that the market has splintered, and nobody can argue with that the market is splintering, is the fact that these news sites, so-called news sites, most of them at least, all they want to do is be shills for the mainstream. So it's like Marvel, pretty, DC, pretty, Diamond, so cool. But everybody else, it's whatever crap story they can make up, whatever lie they can. And some once you do the research, some of these articles, and I won't name names because there's litigious news sites out there. Some of these sites lie about the independent market, about the so much. When you got me into watching, when you got me into watching Zach, Diversity in Comics. I'm like, oh, this stuff can't be like as bad as he's saying. He's just overreacting, and everybody says that he's a clown, and he's done this and that, and all of this. And you get into actually look, and that's why we keep saying not that we're the most educated podcast, but we encourage people to go out there and look
And get educated. Yeah.
and get an education as to this market. There's no one real place that I would point people to that I think is 100% on. Not everybody, and you shouldn't be dogmatic about it. This isn't a religion, it's a form of entertainment.
Mm.
You shouldn't have blind faith in any one person or two people. Go out there, research, decide for yourself, and figure out where the actual facts are. And it's harder to dig for now than ever, thanks to the way these social sites are. Everybody and their brother wants to jump on the next bad rumor or the next trolling. Pardon me. And the big thing that I don't see a lot of out there is a lot of positivity. Because back when you had to get your comic news, when you were greedily drinking up any nugget of comic news that you could find from the printed word, you had Comics Buyer's Guide, Amazing Heroes, Comics Journal, and even Comics Journal was very anti-mainstream, but they were not afraid to call a good comic wherever it was printed from. They were not afraid to pull in an interview from a creator that maybe editorially they didn't quite agree with. And yeah, there's some interviews out there that were a little pointed, a little hostile, where they were trying to bend it in their particular direction or not. But they were very informative, and that's the problem with the short spurt world of social media that we have now. Twitter only allows you to go so far, and it's easier to sound mean than to sound positive.
Right.
So you're dealing with a few amount of characters. That's why I rarely go up on Twitter. I rarely post on Twitter, and if I do, it's to post my stuff or to try to push somebody else's positivity. If you really want to have a social discussion in social media, you either have to come onto a podcast like this or do a long explanation on Facebook, which nobody really wants to read past the blonde pointing at the white cat meme.
Yeah.
You know, so it's rough. It's genuinely rough out there to get real information, because there's not, all of these like big sites are not giving you real information unless it promotes the whoever wrote the press release, or the small gate kept minority of what they call mainstream.
Right. Ted Davis says, "Good morning. Good morning, Ted."
Morning, Ted.
Aaron says, "Hi guys." Hi.
Good
Aaron.
morning, Aaron.
Good morning.
How are you, buddy?
And Ted says, "Hi to Trico and Aaron."
Trico and Aaron. Yep. Everybody's welcome aboard. We have 7 people watching us right now. Please hit the like button. If you're watching us on YouTube, all the algorithms go to add a little positivity to the INDIEVOLT. And welcome everyone on INDIEVOLT Radio. Are we hooked up on there yet?
We are.
Awesome.
Yep.
Welcome everybody from around the world listening to us on INDIEVOLT Radio.
Yeah, it's always fun to see those numbers climb. Right now they're fluctuating. I don't have a number yet. But
your ears and opinion are very important to us, no matter where you are, no matter what you're reading, because we're not afraid to be told we're full of shit. Wait a minute, let me pull that banner up. Warning people.
Yeah.
I'm a little sick today, so we will not be watching our expletives. We are rated TV MADLSV, where the D stands for diversity. Now, websites that you can trust, I don't know of anybody that you can go out there and actually point at and go, yeah, that like I said, that site's absolutely trustful. Because when I was listening to diversity in comics, for example, when it comes to comic history, everybody has their perspective. And Zach has mentioned some stuff about comics history where I'm sitting there going, that's not how that went. That's not how that went at all. Dude, I was alive and reading comics back during that period. So I've been breathing comics since I was 15, 13, literally. I got a long story, and maybe someday we'll tell it. But I know a lot of comics history because I was there, and I was getting Comics Buyer's Guide, and I was part of the black and white movement. We should probably introduce ourselves, actually, because new people might not realize who we are.
They should know.
They should know. But hey, I'll go first. I'm Randy Zimmerman. I'm an alternative and independent comics publisher, creator. I've done everything in the direct market that you can imagine. For the last 10 years, I've been doing a newspaper, a comics and entertainment paper, where I was printing 10,000 copies and giving it away. It was advertiser supported right here in my county. That was right around the Flint area, Flint, Michigan. And we moved a lot of papers. And one thing that I learned is that comics, everybody, well, I won't say everybody because that's a misnomer. Almost everybody loves comics. And everybody will read comics if it's accessible. And if you're able to get it at a good enough rate. Walking into a comic shop and having to pay $5 for 20 pages of comics is not that accessible. Though, I really want to make sure that we call out the positive here. Peter Samedi on Wednesday just kicked out a $5 book that's got 80 pages of comics in it. That's awesome. When you compare it to the rest of the market. He kicked out his first of his giants. He finally got that out because he's had printer problems. He just got that out to the newsstands yesterday. And I haven't been able to go out and pick one up yet, but I will. Because I want to go to my local retailer and pick it up as opposed to ordering it straight from him, because I want the retailer to know that, I appreciate what he's doing.
Right.
But it's so difficult out there to get real information. What websites do you use? Anybody in the chat want to speak up? I'm going to try to hold my my negativity. And I've got an article today that I want to talk about from Newsarama. Newsarama started out being an incredible site. Just everything, it almost, they were eager to push anything that was pro-sequential art. And I know INDIEVOLT does their best, but they don't keep on top of absolutely everything.
Right.
They're more alternative focused. But Newsarama used to keep track of everything. And
Hmm.
I had an article printed there years ago when I did a political comic because I love doing, and I'm sorry, I'm wandering off again when you should be introducing yourself.
It's okay, good.
I did a political comic for a small campaign down in Kentucky, and just on the off whim, I sent them a press release, and they covered it, and they put the cover on there because it was comics and it was unusual, and I went, great on Newsarama. These guys are cool, and I read their site after that for years and years.
Hmm.
But then when I'm doing my paper, I'm moving 9,500, 9,900 copies a month of this paper. We do a 50th issue that's got a George Perez cover because we took George out to dinner and he said, "Yeah, I'll pencil a cover, but only if one of my contributors, which was a young girl that he had known for the family forever,
Hmm.
for a long, long time, said, I'll pencil it if you ink it." And then we got a Paul Sizer, who's a really big graphic artist, friend of ours that was out of Kalamazoo to do the colors on it, and it was an awesome cover.
Right.
And we printed it for our 50th issue. I sent news press releases around to everybody, all of the big comic media. That is, nobody covered it. Nobody covered it.
Hmm.
And I'm like, what's going on here? How come this should be monumental? People should want to talk about this because it's comics that is going away from the comic shops. In the paper, I offered to send copies of the paper. I didn't send them out to everybody, but I offered them to send copies out to people. The newspaper had everybody in our reading area, all of the comic shops in our reading area, all took out ads in the paper
Right.
because they knew it reached outside people. And one of my most loyal advertisers in the paper said that they figured, that 85% of the people reaching or who were reading the paper had never stepped into their shop before, and they had been around for over 30 years. So none of these sites, none of these comic news media sites didn't carry it. And that just added to my frustration even more. And now, here it is 3 or 4 or 5 years later, because we were monthly, and I printed 100 issues of Flint Comics, and then
Right.
decided to stop doing it, and that was issue 50. So we were halfway through our run at that point. So it was about 5 years ago, and I didn't know what I was going to do until you started showing me Zach
Yeah.
and diversity in comics, and he's now Comics Matter.
I think the reason why I started showing to you because it was like uh, when I started. I think the first time I came across it.
'Cause I
Um,
intentionally lost track of the market. I stopped trying to pay attention to it.
I should say.
And in
Hi
the
everybody.
meantime, all this crazy stuff happened. Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, no,
Sorry,
no.
I'm just babbling on.
It's okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Varian Grant, and I am the co-owner of Last Call Comics. Been so for the last 7 years. Founder of iNDIEVOLT Media LLC. Started making comics way, way, way back in the old days, 2008. My first book published was a black and white interior action comedy called Psycho Sirens. I'm a father, a husband, a geek, a creator, a publisher, a reluctant taxpayer, and artist. Shamefully, not in that order. And this, of course, is iNDIEVOLT Breakfast Buzz. Um, Randy, you touched on something very
You're not.
important.
You don't have this on YouTube. Rob's asking when you
It
put
is
this
on
on
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah, yeah, I can send you the link, Rob. It is on YouTube.
It's on YouTube now, Rob. We just
Yeah,
got a late start, is all.
yeah, I can send you the link towards it. Yeah, because Facebook isn't, I guess, sharing URLs anymore. Um,
Oh, Marvy.
yeah, you mentioned something about the Newsarama and a couple other places, but also Aaron says that I live 40 minutes from Flint, Michigan. Yeah,
That could be good or bad,
it,
depending upon the direction.
yeah, well, I mean, I'm about 45 minutes myself from Flint. 45 minutes an hour, maybe. Depends
Yeah.
on the traffic.
And
Uh,
if you get lost getting directions from Varian, it could take an hour and 10 minutes.
oh yeah, yeah, because I always end up on the wrong street and going to Randy's house.
The last time I dropped you off, I ended up, I don't know where I was. I think I ended up bumping into 69 and having to drive west for quite a while before I got
Ooh,
back to Flint.
oh. Yeah, see, it's I think that when the Newsarama, and I was going to touch on this, but since you brought them up, it'll be I have to mention it. Posted an article. I posted to my personal Facebook last night.
I've got it. I've got it.
Do you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. Let me
And,
pull it up and let me share it
okay.
because it's important.
Hmm.
And
It is. It is.
this is an example of your previous question, guys,
Now, did you see that?
about where he's out looking for information, because there are parts of this that are incredibly deceptive.
Now, did you see that before I posted or after?
I think you posted it, and then
Yeah.
Rob Anderson posted it.
Yeah. I
I
think I
ended
got it.
up going to the link off of Rob's site. So
Yeah.
let me whoop. I didn't mean to do that. Let me share my screen here. I don't have to share audio. Let me try a Chrome tab. Here we go.
I will send you that link, Rob. I'll send it to you on Facebook.
I think this is it. Is that it?
Let me see here. Hold on, I'm sending a link to.
Yes, that's it. Oh, only here.
There we go.
Let's scroll past that. Let's try to get away from as many of these stupid ads as possible. I don't have an ad blocker, and Newsarama is slaughtered with them. Just almost as bad as, but not quite as bad as that other site that Johnson, Dick Johnson does. Yeah. Anyway, image publisher. There are way too many books for comic stores to handle now, and we are a mature audience. I think the major quote, the word that he left out there was the word shit. There are way too many shit books for comic stores to handle. But anyway, that's my opinion. That's not what the headline says. One of the big problems facing the comic industry is way too many books, according to Image Comics publisher Eric Stephenson. Hail, Eric. Comic book stores can't keep up with ordering them. There's just too much to keep track of. And if a specialty market catering to this specific type of content is overwhelmed by the amount of books being published, that's definitely going to be an issue for other sales channels, Stephenson said. What other sales channels? Am I missing something? Libraries? What? Worse, it's going to trickle down to readers, because at $4 and $5 an issue, and that's where I stopped. And I said, $4 or $5 an issue. Oh, you're talking about comic books. You're not talking about graphic novels. And then you had to go back up here and say it's going to be an issue for other sales channels. Now you're talking about selling those graphic novels. So he's not really talking books, which is what the headline says.
Well,
there are way too many books for comic stores. There are way too many comic books for stores to handle.
Yeah.
So he actually missed out on two words. So it should read, there are way too many shit comic books for comic stores to handle.
Okay.
Anyway, moving on. That limits the number of comics someone has to reasonably afford within a single month or every month. According to the Diamond Comics distributor, the comic book store's primary distributor, and again, misleading on the part of Newsarama. Diamond Comics distributor is the comic book store's only primary distributor, unless they're dealing directly with a publisher. That I'm aware of. Are there other distributors out there yet?
Not to my knowledge.
If anybody knows one, please let us know. I know Peter Semeni's talking about doing alternative distributing, but he can't get that off the ground fast enough. 5,395 comic books were released in 2019. Holy crap.
Hey, Randy, is that officially more comic books than there are stores?
Yes. That's more comic book titles.
Yeah, more comic book titles than there are stores.
And about, what is that, about almost three times as many comic book titles as there are public libraries. Every publisher, and I want to be clear that I absolutely include my image in this, okay, could do a better job of curating their content instead of constantly flooding the market with books that may not have an actual audience, Stevenson continued. Again, that paragraph should come back to haunt him, in my opinion.
Is it up there? Is it on the level of Dan DiDio saying there's no talent out there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very much so. But this is the opposite.
Yeah.
DiDio refuses, in my opinion. DiDio continues to not try to look for talent when there's so much talent out there. Stevenson kicks out books from talent that have proven to be non-talent, and then he wonders why his books aren't selling. And how do you prove yourself to be a non-talent? Because a lot of these guys have worked in the mainstream for a few years and have sold shit numbers. And I mean shit numbers, to the point where the mainstream guys go, you know what? We really don't need your next big take on whoever. Maybe you should go find other work. Only not in so nice words. So they end up creating an IP that's something that they think Netflix will want, and they take it to Image, and they look at the person who's pitching the idea, and they go, oh, well, you've been printed by the mainstream companies for years. Sure, we'll take your book.
Yeah.
And we're going to get back to that because there's a little bit more about that later in the article.
Rob says the Kickstarter is a semi-distributor.
Well, that's part of the splintering that's gone on, and they're not really part of the direct distribution system that Stevenson is whining about. Mm-hmm. They are a whole different distribution system, thank goodness, because you find that it's a big thing in comics history that whenever somebody hits a roadblock, either they or somebody else finds a way of getting around that roadblock, and comics survive. It's like trying to stop water that's flooding your house. You know, are you going to plug all the holes? I don't think that's always going to work, because water might eventually find a way. Over the course...
let me read this from Ted real quick. Ted says, I have a crazy idea. What if we open the shop solely dedicated to indie published books and offer to print and distro them?
That's coming.
Yeah, that's going to go. It's going to go.
There's been such a large amount of dissent and control that has happened in the market that it's really rough for a retailer to stop getting a lot of the mainstream books. They've been programmed to pick them up in order to make sure that they cover all their audience, even though their audience is constantly shrinking. Plus, once you understand how the direct market works and how you have to order things 3 months in advance, it gets 3 times scarier to deal with this kind of product. So you tend to lean on the stuff that you think is really going to sell. The problem is that these companies have stopped producing books that are really going to sell, and then are now producing books that might or probably won't sell. And it's leaving a lot of these retailers high and dry, which is why a lot of the retail numbers are dropping. I mean, the retail outlets have been dropping steadily. I would imagine, though I don't have the numbers in front of me, they've been dropping steadily for the last decade. When asked what Image has and could do to further that aim, Stevenson revealed some big picture plans. Over the course of 2019, we've launched fewer books, like a third less, he explained. I wonder how his sales numbers have gone. That's my conjecture. We're planning to continue that going into next year because we saw positive results from thinning the line over the course of this year. Well, and I don't want to point the finger at anybody specific, but let's say creator, writer A has worked for 5 years at Marvel, worked for 3 years at DC, brings a project to Image, and Image goes, oh, you worked at Marvel and DC. Sure, we'll pick you up. They're looking at the name, and they're not looking at the results. Because writer A, who's worked at Marvel, their last title dropped down to 4,000 books. Writer B at DC, and they got their job at DC because they used to work at Marvel, their numbers have dropped down to 1,200 books. And now they're done, and they go to Image, and Stevenson picks them up and solicits for the book, and the book numbers drop down to 600. And he wonders why he's not selling product. That's the way it's been working. And there have been so many examples out there of this happening, especially when it comes to Image, in my opinion. that there's no sense in pointing the finger at any one person. You just have to go back out and absolutely look at the numbers, and you will see that what I'm saying is
Yeah.
pretty close. Curating image line doesn't mean
Hey,
in
Dorothy.
quality of or quantity, huh?
Dorothy said hi. Hey guys. Dorothy,
Hey guys,
creative Nia Caller, as well as Spirit's Destiny joining us.
curating images line doesn't just mean in quantity of titles, but also in how many titles that are being developed for specific audiences. And here's another problem:
Hmm.
when you go to pigeonhole your audience, you're begging to lose.
Hmm.
And I learned that pretty successfully when I was working at Arrow, or when I was printing at Arrow. Curating by the same token, we're using different criteria to judge what we do and don't do. Stevenson said a few years back, at a comics pro meeting, I spoke about the fact that we're doing too much science fiction. Is there really such a thing? But I think it's more than just singling out a specific genre. It's isolating the audience for whatever is being proposed. Again, when you come to isolation and audience, when it comes to comics, you're talking low number. Why do you want to isolate your audience? Why 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 in the world would there ever be an expression in fandom or in any of the coming out of any of the creators' mouths that we didn't make this book for you?
Yeah. Well, you know why, but go ahead.
It shouldn't exist. And anybody that says it ought to have a call from the editor going, "Hey, I saw on social media you said we didn't make this comic for you. Who are you making it for then? Everybody's money's green. What's your problem?" When asked for an example, the Image co-owner gave a snapshot. Didn't want to name names. For instance, I was recently sent a pitch by a creator whose work I really like. Why? Because he reads a lot of mainstream stuff.
Hmm.
And while I personally found the idea to be interesting, we ultimately passed on it because it didn't seem the sort of thing that would have a very wide audience, which was smart, Stevenson revealed. How many other books has he printed that they've printed because not because the idea was interesting, but because he personally liked the people that was doing the work? I'm just again, just accent. It's up
Yeah,
for
but
debate.
yeah. Now he starts doing it.
Because we publish creator owned comics, we're in a position where we could publish anything. But I think it's in creators' best interest and the industry's best interest that we instead exercise some prudence. Poor prudence. Which hasn't been exercised in years. Look for Newsarama's full interview with Stevenson later this week. There, that's enough huckstering
So there's more
for
to that interview.
Newsarama. I'm sure there will be more, but that I'm sure they were giving you the taste of the good stuff in order to entice you to go. It clickbait in order to entice you to go deeper into the article. But just reading that article shows you that should be an example of the quality of people up there at these companies and their decision process. You know, and how many of these books are they doing that are made for everybody? How many totally accessible comics are they actually doing out there?
Mhm.
You
I mean,
know,
and you think about the books they said they passed over. Now he said he didn't name names. He didn't say what creator it was,
no,
but they came to him and they said, "Hey, I want to pitch this. I want to pitch this book." And sometimes I wonder if he actually. I'm starting to wonder if he actually told the person no, or the person said, "Hey, I want this deal because these other guys over here are making ridiculous amounts of bank. So if I do this deal with Image, I want this type of deal." And he said, "Oh hell no, we can't match that." The
no,
other,
no. I don't think that works that way at Image.
Mhm.
And this is where Image is very unique, and they're in a very unique position. Image has a set way of doing business, and that's what they do. I don't know if they've ever deviated from that. I haven't been privy to any inside deals at Image to know whether it's been that way or not. But it's a deal that Kirkman initially was happy to deal with.
Mhm.
I still believe that he's working within those perimeters, and I could be wrong,
Oh,
other than the
Walking Dead.
fact that they bumped him up, huh?
The Walking Dead, the comic is over, but yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
he's still doing Oblivion Song
yeah,
and other
yeah. He's
titles
doing other books, yeah.
that fit. I'm imagining he gets the same deal as
Yeah, 'cause
whoever else that they accept. But when's the last time they accepted a book because it was awesome,
he's
and not
published.
and not a book because the talent had some sort of pull in the mainstream?
Well, I mean, I don't think he minds me saying it, but Larry Higgins said he had pitched Niobe to
Mm-hmm.
Image, and they came back with no, sorry. Um, so you start wondering, if
What's it on quality or because we don't know who this guy is? Flush him,
I
flush him
don't,
out.
I don't know, and I don't know if Larry's watching. If he is, I'd like to know. If they gave him a reason.
I honestly haven't read Niobe either, but
Yeah, what? Yeah, yeah. And Randy, do you think that is an issue with Do you
but you
think?
go through and look at Image as a company from its inception to what they're doing now.
Mhm.
Just look at the product. They've made their stumbles. They've screwed themselves a couple of times, and they've stubbed their toe so much. And what? Why are they suddenly Vertigo?
Mm, mm,
You know, that's
mm.
the big question.
That's
I mean, you had such when Image first started, the retailers couldn't get enough of them because you had top-notch creators doing top-notch IPs. Granted, those IPs were derivative of other IPs,
mhm.
but they made them their own and they cooked with them and they ran with them. And you still have Larson and McFarlane up there doing great stuff. If in people's opinions, constantly selling stuff to this day, and
Mhm.
their numbers are high. But why
Um,
can't the other books get up there other than Walking Dead and Saga and maybe one or two other titles? What is it? I'm not going to go through and name negative names because I don't want to be negative on this. I just want to be constructive and educate people.
James Dunn said he was thinking the same thing that I placed just a bit ago about opening the shop. Guys, I'll tell you the truth. Gosh, 7 years ago, I considered opening up a comic book shop. I had everything set to go. In my area, there were no shops. There were no shops in my area for um, mm, a good well,
If they're thinking of opening up a shop, they really need to do their research for one, and for two, they better have a lump of cash to start with.
a good 15 to 20 miles. There were no shops in my
Yeah.
neighborhood, and I was gonna do it. And then I have this tendency to try to go talk to people who are doing it, and I remember going to here's his name again. He's gonna come up. I remember going to Dennis Barger and telling Dennis what my plans were.
Mm-hmm.
And Dennis told me, he says, I don't know if you remember this. He says, that all sounds great, but why don't you take that money and go stand on Belle Isle Bridge and throw it away? At least you'll have more fun.
Make it rain.
Yeah, and he said, you'd be better off just going to burn that money and set fire
Yep.
to it.
Yep.
And I was like, what? And he explained to me some of the problems that would occur if I opened a comic shop. And so I took my little, my little shillings and I went back and I did something else. But I'll tell you this, I don't even think he could predict what happened after that, which was how things have changed.
No. No.
After and so I'm glad I didn't do it because of the comic shop that did open. There's a
Mm-hmm.
comic shop that opened by me. He opened with a big toy focus, shifted into comics,
Yeah.
and now he's like out there trying to find what's next.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
no, that's the story of every comic retailer out there. Just look and ask.
Mhm.
They're always looking to find what's next because what's now is barely keeping them alive. They want to find what's next so that they can make some money.
And there is a comic shop.
That's
We
why
put
that's why statues were big.
yeah.
That's why Wizards of the Magic was big.
Hmm.
That's why Funko Pops are big now
Hmm.
because they're desperately out there trying to find anything they can make money on
There is there's
and
a
push
comic
push.
shop that does sell nothing but indie books. I put the picture.
They are out there. Yeah, there's shops out there that don't get regular weekly books.
Yeah.
They're still out there, but I think everybody sells back issues
Yeah.
in one form or another.
What and then I know I talked to a lot of comic shop owners who were so happy about these Diamond Select Gallery statues.
Mm-hmm.
because they are affordable. I got one right here. I got a couple actually, but one of the newest ones I just got is right here. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's a Supergirl, and I liked it because it's based on the Mike Turner design.
Yeah. Yeah.
But these are they usually range from about you can find them for about 30 to 50 bucks in stores,
Uh huh.
and the comic shop owners are loving these and Funko Pops because they're keeping them afloat.
Yeah.
They're keeping them afloat because imagine, I mean, like I think this figure was 35 bucks on sale. That means they paid much lower for it than that.
Yeah.
But so you guys gotta imagine. I remember I was going through my local comic shop. I'm pretty friendly with them, like to the point where I go in and I go behind the counter.
Mm-hmm.
I've answered the phone there. I've helped out in bad comics, and I'm privy to the Diamond ordering form, the online.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna tell you guys something here. You're gonna piss a lot of you off. Um, I have about 200 sketch covers here at home. I paid about 50 bucks for them because Diamond had a 10-cent sale
Yeah.
on sketch covers.
Yeah.
10 cent to the retailers.
Well, there was a
I
period
bought,
there a year or so ago. You could always tell what was about to hit Ollie's
Mhm.
because Diamond would go through and blow them out about a month or two before.
Yeah, and you got to be careful too because you buy like so these comic shops are trying to find stuff to keep them afloat. Pops,
You,
statues,
you missed the word
sketch covers.
desperately in there.
Oh yeah, they're definitely trying to find.
They're desperately trying to find a way to stay afloat.
And the ones that I mean, there are some stores that are very, very um, open to comics, in indie comics, and the other ones who are like, you know what, I'm done with comics as a whole.
Every shop is different. Every shop, yeah. Back in the '80s, we had a problem with the black and white bust, what they called the black and white bust, because of some slipshod black and white comics burned a lot of the retailers. So you saw Image ran through the same kind of thing, only on probably on a larger scale, money wise. But to me, it seemed to be a smaller extent because they flooded the market with bad superhero product
Hmm.
for a while, and the retailers finally gave up on it, and their numbers went when they stopped doing bad. Well, they stopped doing a lot of the superhero product.
Real quick,
Much to everyone's chagrin, actually, because if they'd have concentrated on quality instead of quantity, which is Marvel's problem right now, they probably wouldn't have been in that boat because they're figuring out that if they put out less titles, they make more money because the titles make more money, and it's less overhead on their part. DC's
question,
doing that right now.
question from Emilio from IndieVolt Radio. Emilio asks if the Buzz Box will ship out of the country, out of the U.S. Emilio, we don't have a problem with shipping out the country. Just know that your
Your shipping
I'm
costs will reflect that.
yeah, shipping costs reflect that. Now, I also would say this too, Emilio. We're trying to keep content in that box to a very
Keep talking.
I think the other word Randy used was at the worst it's gonna be light, very light R. Um, in some countries, I'm not sure what country you're from. Um, they do have laws regarding what you can read. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure everything in there is fine, and wherever you're at, I'm pretty sure it's fine. But I know that some countries, when stuff is shipped internationally, they will go through your package. So, um, we want to keep that in mind. But I don't think you'll have a problem with
He
that.
meant your mail. He meant
Yeah,
your
yeah,
mail,
yeah,
not
yeah.
not your real package.
No, 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 no. Unless it's TSA, they'll go through your package.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's never a nice looking person that does it though. Anyway, but yeah, so we will ship out the country. Just keep in
In
mind
your
your shipping costs will
in
be
your in your opinion,
affected.
beauty is subjective. Anyway,
um, yeah, Randy, with the comic shops, and you've been on the other side too. You've been
I
you
retailed for a number of years. Yeah,
yeah.
but this was back when comics were, Diamond was had just become the monopoly that it is today. Yeah, monopoly, in my opinion. Um, I turned a store around in a small city that was losing money to one that was making decent money, and in fact, one of the customers actually started out two of the major customers to that store opened up their own shop that has been very successful and is still around to this day.
Jane says, well, this is and I think it was great or good. I need to do it was just to get info feedback on. No, and James, that's what's
Yeah,
important.
It
That's
is.
we have to put out stuff like that. We have to fish for ideas and talk. And here's the thing: just because Randy and I are like, doesn't mean that you don't have the magic
Yeah, we
idea.
appreciate you. We appreciate you listening to us,
Yeah,
absolutely. But we don't appreciate in you giving us all of your faith. Go
yeah,
out there for yourself and do that research and ask the important questions and learn for yourself a lot of this stuff that's out there
yeah. But
because it's to me that's how I learned comic history because I love comics history.
yeah,
I really do.
you may have the key to make it all work. And me.
Or you might be dumb enough to hit upon the what if that makes the thing work that
Yeah,
nobody else does because they think they're too smart to try it.
yeah, because I
You
think
know,
I'm
and
a genius.
and that's happened who knows how many times in innovation and industry.
Yeah,
But before you open a comic shop, please, 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 please do your research. Get to know what Diamond is, get to know what Diamond asks, get to know what the other retailers are, and understand your area. Has there been a previous comic shop in your area that went out of business? And if it did, why did it go out of business? Because a lot of major cities have seen shops pop up and disappear years ago. And it might have been 10, 15, 20 years. Back when sports cards were really big,
hmm
you saw sports cards spring up all over the place.
yeah.
And then those sports cards started selling non-sports cards and started selling comics and then promptly went out of business.
There's a
But the
restaurant.
sports card market just dried up also.
There's a restaurant not too far from me, and there's been in the time I've been in my area, so about 13, 14 years now.
Hmm.
This restaurant has had about five different owners now,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and it each time whoever moves there, the food is delicious.
Hmm.
There's been, I mean, there's been everything from Irish pub food there. The last thing that was there was Azteca, and Azteca is a little small. I don't know. I said a small chain here in Michigan. There's a couple of.
La Azteca.
I know this is Azteca,
Okay.
but just and I mean the portions they give you for what you pay, just amazing.
Hmm.
Went to the restaurant, had a great time. Took the wife, but 2 months later they're closed. No restaurant can say they're longer than 6 months, even if they have quality food.
Hmm.
There's something wrong with that location. And so when you name it a comic shop, you got to figure out what the hell's going on. Like,
It's not necessarily the location. Sometimes it's the people that don't have enough of an investment, or they haven't done enough research, or there's nothing. Very rarely are you going to find a restaurant that's been there for a number of years go bad unless the neighborhood's gone bad.
yeah, no, it's right off the main road there. It's right next to a bunch of other stores. I don't
Yeah.
understand. I mean, well, the parking can
Well,
be a little hard.
apparently a lot of other people don't understand either because they keep opening up
Yeah,
restaurants
yeah,
there, keep
yeah.
trying and trying.
It's like just tear it down,
But
go to the bank. Tear it
we
down, go to
have
the bank.
we have one literally within walking distance of my house.
Hmm.
That's a family restaurant that is awesome, and they did the same thing that you said. They opened up, served awesome food, but for one reason or another, there's no business that can stay there for longer than 6 months.
Hmm.
And it's literally gone from family restaurants, about three different family restaurants, to a Mexican food place opened by the guys who own the longest running Mexican shop here in town.
Hmm.
But they had family squabbles, so somebody opened up over here and they cheapened their formulas, and it didn't work.
Hmm.
And now it's the same story, only with Taiwanese food.
Hmm.
It's turned into a Taiwanese place, and it's like we went in there, great food. We're like, well, let's see if they're around in 6 months.
Yeah. Randy, the other
You
question
know,
is the other part of that question was what's up with the miscommunication in the creative side of the industry? And let me try to tackle that real quick. What my belief is, um, when I first got into the industry, um, I I tried to I tried to learn as much as I could. I think I researched Scott McCloud's book Understanding Comics. I read a ton of different books about breaking into the industry. Uh, you know, I read
understanding comics.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. uh, I read Zim's Heroic Tales. No, I was already in the industry by the time I got around to Zim's Heroic Tales, but um,
That horribly misspelled piece of trash.
But then I I did you have dreams and you have beliefs how you think things go
Hmm.
and how you believe things to be,
Hmm.
and then you get in the industry. And I think this was anything, but for me, then I got into the industry and I realized, that's not how things go at all. And I mean, I was so naive. You got to understand, like I went and I opened up an office and I was paying. My first office was 2 and a quarter. I'll never forget my first landlord. And
This
then
is long before you and I were talking on a regular
right,
basis.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I just want to paraphrase that.
yeah. Because he would have told me. He would told me don't do it. My first,
So
my,
we talk now, and I go, "What were you thinking?"
yeah, my first landlord was named Lincoln Aldrich, and he was an older guy. Had been in Nam and everything, and he answered the phone. He'd say, "Lincoln Aldrich, how you doing, man?" And he'd always announce himself. But he was a really cool guy. But he charged me $225 and for my office, and then later on, the artist had told me they wanted a bullpen, so I bought a larger office that was in the next. It was still in the same park, office park, but just one building over. And if Matthew Thornton, who's been on the show before, was one of my first hires because I foolishly made 200 flyers, full page, Randy, full page white type paper flyers with my company logo, the website, my phone number
Yes,
to call me. And I took him to comic stores. And I remember things a little cheesy like,
something that DC should probably do today.
yeah, do you want to make comics? You know, my first company, Unlimited Psychos, here, da, da, da. And I put these flyers out, and I did get some calls, not as many as I thought I would, but I did get some calls, and people started coming to the office. It was really funny too. My girlfriend at the time helped me set up my office. it was She helped me set up my office on um, March 18th. My birthday is March 20th. I opened my office on March 21st. But anyway, set up my office on March 18th. She broke up with me on March 19th. Out of the blue. And then I opened my office. So I'm already like,
Down.
yeah.
Yep.
And then, but I got this company to run, and I will say, run that company helped me do that breakup. But it was, I so many things I thought about the comic industry just turned out to not be true. It wasn't this if you build it, they will come situation that I thought was going to have. I had, um, so my rent went up, my overhead of 225 went up from 225 to when I added that second office like 500, and then when I forget what happened, but the guys down the hall were starting to just be like pricks, like ridiculous pricks, and so we decided to move out of the office. We moved downtown Detroit on 4th Street and Brush at a building called the Globe Building. Well, it was a bigger office. It was a much nicer office. My rent now went to 825 a month. And I'll tell you, you're trying to make payments for that, pay artists if you can, and all of a sudden you can't. And then people start questioning, well, he's just pretending. I'm not pretending, guys. I got an $825 overhead. I got all these other bills. I got to pay the internet, got to pay the lights for this building or my office area. It
Yep.
was horrible,
Yep.
to the point where I'm like, and then not to mention the theft that was going on. You bring artists down sometimes, they grab they you got packs of pencils like these just in case anybody needs them, and somebody takes one and, oh, this is a Stabler, okay, all right, he's not gonna miss that. Art books I had went missing. I had to actually install the camera. Even my secretary, who could not draw, stole from me first day, and we got her on camera, and she came back the next day and I played the footage for her. And she started crying. I got in the car with her, drove her to her home, got my stuff, came back, fired her. But guys, I want to say that you got to understand that what you might think, because as a creator, we start to like. Randy, did you get disabused of anything that you thought the industry was going to be like? get in and find out, oh shit, that doesn't work that way.
Oh heck no, not me.
No.
No, no. Of course I did.
Yeah.
Jeez, you go into the business, all you can do is make mistakes, and it's how you learn from them.
Hmm.
Just like any business, it's how you learn from them, and you're able to bounce back from them or adapt to them. Is what your survivability is.
I'll tell you,
And
I talk.
when we first started Arrow, we were aiming at a wide audience, and we knew at that point that our audience was a retailer. So
Hmm.
we started out doing books that everybody knew. We
Hmm.
did an Oz adaptation, Wonderland, War of the Worlds. Products that every retailer would understand what the book would be like. We didn't sell nothing. And we ran ads in Diamond. We had big. And they were really well produced books. I still sit by the production values on those books to this day.
I don't know if anybody sees it. I'm putting it on the screen.
So when we realized those weren't selling because we were ending up in people's ordering boxes, then we started catering for books to the fans. We started picking up a lot of creator-owned IPs, superhero stuff. We did barbarian material, you know, just anything that we thought would really the fans would really love. We still weren't selling nothing because the retailers were passing that previews book to whoever, and they were checking out what books they wanted, and then the retailers were ordering out of that book and not ordering any to sit on their shelves, and then we were getting shorted constantly. The numbers coming in off of the invoices were not the numbers that the retailers were getting. So it got to the point where it was pretty obvious that that Diamond didn't really care about us being there and didn't want us there. To the point where we got mad and we tracked down my buddy I was into printing it with, and we tracked down our Diamond rep in an elevator, and he told us flat out that
You guys are.
you guys just need to dry up and blow away. That Diamond's only interested in you guys drying up and blowing away. That's all.
You know-
And they're going out of their way to try to make that happen. It's like, oh, good. They want to castrate the market. That's maybe we shouldn't be here. So then we started doing graphic novels, which Diamond really appreciated because it was a higher volume book, and it just we after a couple of fiascos dealing with Diamond on that, we were just done.
Now tell me about this, Randy. Your Arrow preview book. This one is free, so this
Yeah.
one went out. You guys put this in stores. The diner put.
Oh, we tried to put it, and Diamond wouldn't carry. I don't think Diamond carried that.
Okay.
To tell you the truth, I think we handed that out mostly at cons and went around to the local retail shops and gave it away. We tried to raise our awareness of the product that we were doing. And we were really proud there at the end. We were doing some really top-notch quality product. I mean, and a lot of these guys that we printed have gone on to have very successful careers.
Yeah, I mean,
Some of them have kind of gone away, but some of them have gotten big.
a lot of these.
Back
titles-
then, we did a zombie book. We did a barbarian book. We did we tried to do whatever we could. And like I said, we picked up a superhero title from Scott Rosema, who we've had on the show.
Did you do that marketplace thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very Randy Zim. That's very. You can tell a certain style like that. That looks like.
Well,
Did
I
you-
was
did you
I
do that
was
by
brought
hand?
up I was brought up with a commercial art background, and was literally tossed in the apparel shop I was doing artwork for in order to make a living. Tossed a copy of Corel Draw at me and told me to learn it. And so I learned it, and that's all. And I know Corel Draw, I know Photoshop, and that's what we do. Everything, all of the paper was pasted up in Corel Draw because I knew that program like the back of my hand. I set up a couple templates and made laid out a page and made a print ready PDF file for it, and it was good to go.
As a publisher, and I don't know if people probably know, it's not as what's the word? It is competitive, but a lot of times Randy will tell you after the shows or even during the shows, after a panel, we'll all kind of get together and you might see two publishers who you think are at odds actually sitting there having a conversation over a donut, just talking and having a beer. And
because we're all in the same boat, and we want to. And anybody who's in the business long enough realizes that you want to learn from the next guy what they did. What did you do? You did that book. How'd that book sell for you?
Yeah.
Oop. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I
And
won't
the
do that book.
and sometimes the conversations continue online.
Hmm.
We do have a publisher's Facebook.
There's a
Uh,
number of forums out there
yeah.
for any aspect of the comic market. If you know how to get and snoop around on Facebook,
Mhm.
you can definitely get into these forums.
And I'm a member of a page of a group, and it's me and a couple other Michigan-based publishers. And I became a topic, and
Okay.
one of the topics was they were asking me, hey, Eric Hodson was on Drawn and Quartered. He won the fan edition. Congratulations on winning the fan edition, Mr. Dreaded Dinosaur.
Hey,
He
Eric.
was also on the Big Show, Drawn and Quartered last night. Um, I believe Eric, did you come in? Was it fifth place last night? Yeah, the theme last night was Mumra, but James is gonna be Eric. We could call him Eric.
Wasn't it he? Well, not Mumra. It was Thundercats, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
the Thundercats, and
Yeah.
Eric did a really cool Lino and not Lino, Panthro and Chitara piece that I feel he was robbed. Really good piece, Eric. Ended up coming in fifth place last night, but it was a gorgeous piece. I know Eric had a good time. He also had
Did
uh,
Mark S. Miller win?
no, Mark S. Miller did not win.
I'm
Um,
shocked.
yeah,
Shocked.
I
Shocked.
sent in a super chat and I tried to put a message in there because Terry Huddleston was also on there and I wanted to pick
Uh-huh.
fun of Terry, but then super chat didn't come through. So Edwin Boyette read my name and then he says, "Oh, and Varian's an artist in his own right. Not in his own right, didn't stick well with me. I'm just kidding, but it was funny because but Eric was on there. It was tough competition. Aaron Lepresti did a Mumra, which I think Aaron did Lepresti won. And you know what? I'm thinking about it. If we were going to go on technicality, you were supposed to be drawing Thundercats.
Hmm.
Mumra is not a Thundercat, so he shouldn't have won.
Well, wasn't that a villain on
Yeah, it was a
Thundercats?
villain. Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
villain.
it's the
But
same thing.
yeah,
Same thing. It's all
um,
right. It's all right.
but yeah,
Those popularity contests, though,
what Eric's gonna actually be, I'm hosting a show on IndieVolt right here, right here. It's gonna be something kind of like Drawn and Quarter. We'll get some information on that pretty soon. But what I was saying about the forum that I'm in is that they started asking me about questions. They started asking me questions about my company because they I had posted some things and they were like, well, that we don't like that. Why are you doing that? And I ended up having to go to my
You said, "Well, I didn't make that for you."
well, the thing was, I after getting the finger shook in my face a few times, I kind of went back to my, the Last Call Comics private Facebook, and I'm like, hey guys, look, this is what I'm being told. And I remember some of the guys, some of the things I was told was like, I don't want to tell everything here, but one of the things I was told is that, you don't, okay, Randy, you've been doing books for a while, and I think the audience knows this. In comics, typically there's a period of the payment period. I know I looked at a Marvel contract one time. Marvel doesn't pay their artists or their creators, writers. They can pay them up to 30 days after publication of the book.
Yeah.
After publication, that means the book is on the shelf,
Well,
and
they've
they
got that. They've got that in their contract for cash flow, just in
right, right.
case the cash flows, because in the long stream of things, and I don't mean to sound bitter, but I'm going to sound bitter
Mm-hmm,
about how this industry works. The artist, the actual talent cogs
mm-hmm.
that work on these books, very, very, very low in the land of overhead. Because they
Right.
have office, they have they have offices, office supplies, and
Mm-hmm.
everything else to do, and the day to day comes first.
Yeah.
And then maybe if there's is there enough money left over? When are we supposed to pay so and so? Well, I have a number of commercial clients that I deal with that are on a 30-day
Yeah.
pay. That I'll do it, I'll invoice it, and then they literally sit there and they mark off. They turn the calendar page. If I send it to them on the 15th,
Mm-hmm.
they turn the calendar page the next month on the 15th, and then they write my name.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
And
when that date comes up, oh, it's time to pay Randy. How's
so
the cash? Well, as soon as the cash rolls around that they can write a check, they write the check. So I might not get paid until the 25th.
Well, I will tell people this, like, remember 30 days after
But
publication, and most comic creators are working
yeah,
sometimes 3 months ahead.
oh yeah,
So you're working for a check that's going to come 4 months, and Randy can tell you he's gotten royalties How many times do you think you get royalties from one of your books? I don't want to say the name of what
How
publisher.
many times?
Yeah, how many times a year do
Right
you
now,
get?
the main royalty is probably quarterly. Yeah,
Okay, so quarterly. So
yeah,
that's every few months, Randy gets a check, and
yeah. If
Randy.
the quarter ends in June, by June 15th or 20th, I'll get a check.
Okay, um, do you think has that dropped any?
As what?
Has the amounts dropped, or is it pretty
Oh,
much
the amounts
been the
always
same?
vary
Okay, so yeah,
because I get a percentage of the profits.
right.
Yeah.
One quarter it can be a couple $100. The next quarter it might be as low as
Well,
$40.
that's ideally,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What it's more like some quarters it'll be $50 and other quarters it'll be five.
Right. Okay.
That's
So
probably that's probably better.
so
But I haven't printed anything, under that kind of a contract in a long time. So.
so the thing is about that. The thing is, I don't do that
Hmm.
with publishing. If you got to create your own book. Um, I try to do things a little bit differently. Uh, I I like to pay the artist very soon, very quick. Sometimes after the show, I've done that. I've gone.
Right.
I've after the show, I've gone. Okay, here's what you owe. Here's the show. Okay, you're good. And here's a receipt. You know, here's my copy of the receipt. We're square.
Yep. And personally, there's really nothing wrong with that. It's just that
No,
other publishers might perceive there's something wrong with that because they want the money to float through their bank.
yeah, they have been tearing my ass up.
Yeah.
They have been. You're wrong. You shouldn't be doing this. This is stupid. You're gonna hurt your company. And I've been doing it for years.
You have to keep the cogs in line.
Yeah,
Oil them just enough to use the machinery, but don't oil them so much that they make everything wet.
yeah. So I was told not to do that. What am I thinking?
That's what it
Uh,
is.
Quarterly payment should be the way it is. And I remember I'm the co-owner of Last Call Comics, so um, there's an internal kind of like a problem right now, trying to make sure we don't move to quarterly. I don't want to move to quarterly. I don't, but there are
Hmm.
people like, hey, quarterly's not a bad idea. Also, one of the other things is
That's
that
because you let that money sit and stew in the bank, and every when you're in a publishing situation like you are, every dollar counts.
mhm,
And you can make a couple extra bucks if you set that money there for a quarter and gain the interest on it, especially if it's in an interest bearing savings account,
yeah.
depending upon your bank.
The other problem I think, Randy, is, and we said this before, we said this on the Tuesday show about indie comics not getting out the way, but sometimes other creators will lie to people who want to get in the industry and not tell them the truth because they don't want to seem like they're throwing money away or throwing their time away.
That's
I
why I
mean,
tell everybody to always do their research.
how many creators right now that we know that are the bee's knees online? Excuse me. But when it comes to what we know in reality, they're check to check. They there's
Well,
a lot
it's
of
not even that. It's like I keep telling you, it's not how big you are, it's how big they think you are. There's a
Mhm.
lot of people out there who think they're the bee's knees, who everybody else just adores because they've done a book, or they seem to know what they're doing, or they're pretty, or they have a video,
Well, thank you, Randy.
whatever,
Thank you.
where they're always, yeah,
Thank you.
where they're up there talking about their stuff, and they think that they're huge, and really they don't know shit. And when you really get into it and you really understand the amount of what they're doing, you just go, hey, these people really don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Oh, and but
And
see,
that all comes from knowing how the business works and doing your research, getting your own education.
but if those people are again charming, or they know how to turn on the charm, they know how to be charismatic,
Most of
then
them are like that.
yeah,
And again, they run on your perception of how big they want you to think that they are.
yeah, and then oh my
And
god,
it's the same with publishing companies. You can have publishing companies out there going, hey, we're the fourth largest publishing company in America. And then you sit down and you actually look at them, and man, are their figures off.
Eric says Indicron is tracking Kickstarter now. He's looking for campaigns to add. Contact Pixel Trader on Twitter. Eric, is he just tracking Kickstarter? Is he tracking Indiegogo as well, or just Kickstarter?
IndieCron's always been tracking Indiegogo
Oh, have they?
campaigns.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's adding to that.
I
Okay.
think they're opening themselves up a little harder for crowdfunding in general, which they should be because you should know. But you should know what everybody is doing
Hmm.
and how much they're getting.
I So we
And they provide a good service in that they're there showing off the numbers and the campaigns that you can click uh, right on the submission at IndieCron and go directly to their crowdfunding campaign.
I think that and again, when we say that we people follow people, they think that they are the bee's knees in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want people to think that everyone's horrible. Some people are actually trying to give you good advice. And if
Well,
Randy,
there's a lot of people out there trying to give you good advice. It's just, again, you have to go out there and listen to multiple sources
and
and do your research and
you could
decide
be
on your own.
you could be catching a person on a bad day. Like if you come to me, I'll tell you, the comic industry is fun. It can be fun. It can be entertaining. If you enjoy drawing, you enjoy this industry, then you're gonna have fun. But I don't mean to dissuade anybody. I don't want to kill anybody's dreams. I'm not, I don't.
Oh, there's
I won't.
definitely huge rewards in this industry, or we all wouldn't be here.
I wouldn't have anybody
We'd
come and tell me,
we'd all be at McDonald's.
you get out of comics. Don't do comics. You're horrible. I think that's not what you should do. uh,
What is
now,
it? One of the major fast food chains just promised that they're going to bump their general manager salaries up to six figures.
mm, mm,
Dig that, making 100 grand a year selling fast food.
Jesse Mercier, who introduced me to you, Randy, years ago. He maintains the belief that comics is a table. It's a table,
Mm-hmm.
and there are seats. There's a finite number of seats around that table,
No,
and every time someone sits down and starts eating or whatever, somebody has to get their ass up,
no.
and you know that's that's what
That,
he believes, and
that analogy is sadly mistaken.
he sticks past. Years later,
Yeah.
he still subscribes to that. It's a table, and you better pencil up. And now there's a table for artists, a table for writers,
It's a
teachers.
it's an easy one to think that exists, and you can get very cynical and believe that's the way it is. The market's not limited. I mean, the market's only limited to your marketing, your expertise, and your skill and ability.
Um,
Because I can attest to that from the paper that I was doing that I did for 10 years.
mhm,
Gained what I consider to be a super solid readership, and
mhm.
we moved a lot of papers. Of course, we were free, but I had a lot of readers. I had more readers reading me in my county than I ever had all around the world by about at least five times.
Mhm. Eric
You
says I
know,
always tells prospects to have a backup plan. Yeah, I mean backup plan is
backup plans are for losers.
go all
No,
in.
just
Yeah,
go all in.
yeah,
No,
no, no, no.
you should always and part of having that backup plan is knowing that research on your plan A. You know,
Mm. But you got
because
to start.
knowing the minefield that you have to negotiate and which bumps to avoid goes a long way to keep you from having to activate a plan B.
But you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan, a backup plan. But if you're going to get in this industry, get in, do something. You're only going to start working in it once you start working in it. I know a guy right now, another Michigan-based guy. I guess he's the publisher too, but he has I don't want to say his name or the name of his company, but he has the coolest freaking logo and name for his company. And I think it looks cool. I think it looks very professional. And I was like, oh man, this looks cool. And he's a Michigan based publisher. And then nothing. There's
Mm-hmm.
no content from him. There's nothing. And it's like, when are you gonna shit or get off the pot? Like, do something. Like, you got this cool logo. I'm waiting to see it put on something. But
Yeah.
anyway, I thought it was
Back
gonna.
when, before we jump
Mhm,
tracks, back
mhm,
when we were doing Arrow the first time with Ralph and Stu.
mhm,
Ralph and I had this big talk about comics, the comics market, and that. Once you have your first thing printed, once you see your first physical comic, something
mhm,
that you've done, that's when it happens. You either decide this is what you're going to do, or you decide this is not for you
mhm.
after your first one. That's why you see a lot of these independent books only go one issue. And then, whatever happened to so and so? I thought that book was pretty good.
Yeah.
How many times have you heard that? That's because that printing ink and that physical copy of the comic does it or doesn't do it for you.
Hmm.
Once you get it and you think that it's the coolest thing you've ever done, it could be the worst shit comic that has ever been produced, but you're going to stay in the industry and you're going to be a part of the industry and you're going to make yourself a part of this industry. And I've learned that over the years. You know, you don't have to work in the direct market. You can go out and find other things to do, other ways to go. The majority of my commercial and graphic graphic arts work outside of the comics direct market is all sequential art related. You know, I'm about ready to start my fifth year. Yeah, fifth year of working on the preservers for my local nature preserve company. I'm going to make more money off of them this year than I ever made in independent, you know, doing comics 10, 15 years ago.
Hmm.
And it's all going to be fun comic book work,
Yeah.
you know. There's ways, and you'll find them if you want to be there. It's just like working in any trade or any industry.
Hmm.
You know, the independent songwriter can't seem to get their foot in the door, ends up, as long as they stay straight and don't get deterred, not straight, but as long as they stay sober, because a lot of these songwriters go crazy. A lot of the fine line between genius and madness. A lot of people are susceptible to drug abuse or whatever,
Hmm.
and they stray off the path. But if you stay on that path, you will eventually find your way to do what you want to do. You just have to stick to it and keep figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and stop doing what doesn't work and do what
Uh,
works.
Ted says you need to post content religiously, give to the public
Up.
online.
Standards and practices is telling me I'm wrong. There, I just
So,
threw them off.
give to the public online, build your branding. Yeah, you know, and even that, Ted, is a slippery slope because I've seen publishers and creators post too much where they become shit posters.
Well,
And
we
say,
just
oh,
had
here's
that. We just had that article by Eric Stephenson that
yeah.
said exactly that. Oh, guess what? Maybe we've been printing shit.
Hmm.
Maybe we should stop printing that DDO at DC. Come up with the same thing. And I don't think that regular content is as important as regular quality content. I'd rather read a book that's bi-monthly or quarterly that's got quality to it that I know I'm going to love and enjoy than to read a book that's coming out every month that the artist is spending poop time on to write or draw just to get the damn book out.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen that in the mainstream so many times where they have to throw a fill in or whatever cog that they can get a hold of to do that issue that month in order to hit a deadline. You know, and that doesn't help your brand. That doesn't help your IP at all if you're sitting there pooping stuff out. It just doesn't work like that. You have to have a level of quality and you have to have a level of commitment to that quality and maintain it. Look at here's an example. Jeff Smith's Bone.
Hmm.
Jeff Smith's Bone comes out. Nobody knew what the heck it was.
Hmm.
Nobody wanted to read the thing because nobody knew what it was. It looked kind of pretty. A couple people read it. A couple people liked it. A couple people told
Hmm.
more people. More people told more people. More people told more people. And he was doing his own cartoon books, comic, his own brand for a long time. Long time. And then finally, somebody up there at Scholastic goes, dude, the quality of your book is just too good for us not to want to put in schools.
All
So
right.
why don't you let us print a copy of it and we'll put it in schools and see how it goes. Boom. You know?
Yeah.
And the property, well, the property was real popular in the comic market before Scholastic got a hold of it. Well, once Scholastic got a hold of it, his value jumped. So, and and doing that, doing Bone and staying with doing a quality product for Jeff Smith not only helped out Jeff Smith, but it turned Scholastic onto the thought that, hey, maybe these graphic novels actually sell. And then now they're reportedly, apparently, 33% of the market doing comic content and paying cartoonists to do that kind of stuff. That's not being put primarily in the retail shops. Now you can see it at Myers and Walmart all day. And I had to look. They had an article about Raina, somebody talking about how important she was in the last decades of comics. I'm like,
Yeah.
who is this? And I had to sit down there and look, and oh, lo and behold, all of her books I just saw the week before sitting at Myers. Which is our local big box store.
Yeah.
It's amazing how,
Hey,
like I said, where there's a will, there's a way.
if you don't know what Meyer is, people, if you listen on Indie Radio, if you
It's
don't,
like Walmart. It's
and
like
thanks
your
to the
Walmart.
502 people listening on Indie Radio right now, yeah, it's like a Walmart. It's like a Walmart, and a little less, yeah, a little bit more expensive than Walmart. A little bit more. You got to pay $1 or two more.
They're a little more union. They treat their people a little better, but their store designs lately have really gotten out of control.
It hasn't, haven't they? Yeah, they have. They have. Also,
They
radio.
have they have somebody up there. It's like our local Department of Transportation. They seem to have to want to justify their salary by doing things the most stupid and illogical way possible. All of a
Um,
sudden, we've got roundabouts springing up around here like pimples.
yeah, it's the funny thing is that when I moved over here, there's like when I moved where I'm at now, there's like um gosh, just like 5 or 6 roundabouts that I know of. So I got used to them pretty quick. But there were none on the west side of the
Yeah,
eh,
that they kind of started over there where
yeah,
the development happens.
yeah,
That's where they start pumping
yeah,
round because it's easier to do than to take a four-way and convert it.
yeah. So now we got this roundabout thing, and I got used to them. There was one right by my
There's
third
one there's
apartment over
one
here.
particular stretch over around where the Novi show is.
Hmm.
Not the Novi show, but the Motor City Con.
Yeah,
North of the Motor City Con, you hit a roundabout every other block.
yeah.
And it gets crazy. You're driving roundabout, driving roundabout, driving roundabout, and after a while, you go, "Am I in the same place?"
The
And they all look the same too. It's
before
crazy.
we
You really have to watch the street names.
before we got the where we're at now, before we bought the home, that was apartments and townhomes. Well, the last townhome I had um
Hmm.
was there was a eight. It was basically a figure eight almost. I mean, it was disconnected, but
A roundabout connected to a roundabout.
it was damn near. It was so close. Like
That's
but I
that's
had to
that's
do
what
it.
Wixom's going to turn into real quick.
I
It's all
had
going
to
to
do
be
it.
whoop, 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 whoop.
I had to do it to get home. It was the only
Yeah.
way to do it, unless I was going down 19 Mile Road. If anyone knows Michigan, or you've heard the movie 8 Mile, yes, those mile roads go up. I think the furthest I've been, or furthest I've counted, might be 38 mile. But I'm pretty sure they go much faster, much further than that. But yeah, so I used to live on 19 Mile, and I, coming from one particular way, there was 2 roundabouts, and you had to go through them to get home. So, um, the good news, once I went to those two, my townhome was right there. I had to pull in, and I was in my unit. Um, so I
You're at,
think,
at your house.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I was in the complex where my house is at.
you're
But
you're at your unit. Yeah.
I do want to tell everybody, if you are, this is not me closing the show down, but um, IndieVolt, I've been promising to announce this. IndieVolt TV. If you have IndieVolt TV, you need to, and you're a fan of animation. Sean Miles, who's he goes by the name Shawname, has a comic out called Cybertech, and he put out an animation. He has an animated series for his comic called Cybertech, and we finally talked Sean into signing a deal with IndieVolt TV, and so I can announce that Cybertech is now on IndieVolt TV streaming right now on IndieVolt TV. There's some of the characters. You can see he's got a lot of awards he's won. Winner award recognition, Indie Fest, Hollywood Screenings Film Festival, a lot of different nominations and wins for him for this animated special that he did based on his comic Cybertech. That's episode 1. It is streaming right now on IndieVolt TV. It is the interesting thing about this is that Sean does all of this animation himself. Everything here he did by himself. Even the voices. So it is really cool. I implore you all to check it out. It's about 30 minutes long or so. And again, he did this all by himself. So all the animation, all the CG, all done by himself. It's pretty impressive. Um, it's again, it's about 30 minutes long, but it is worth checking out. And you can pick up his comic series while you're there. He's got a store on the site, Sean. I mean, we're gonna get Sean on the show pretty soon. Um, and so if you got Indievo TV, definitely go check it out. It is there now. It is streaming. It's been there since this morning. I know because I put it up.
Awesome.
uh, yeah, so it's really cool to see
I
that.
need to
So,
get that on the Fire Stick here, real
yeah,
quick.
I the coding is ready. The coding will be submitted by Friday, and then we're waiting for Amazon to approve it. Once Amazon approves it,
Cool.
it'll be on the Fire Stick.
Let me
And
know. I'll put it up there as fast as you put it up there.
yeah,
I'll put it in my house.
yeah. I think that we have. Let me see here. Now, Randy, in regard, the one last question from IndieVolt Radio from Tuesday that I didn't get a chance to answer. I always say last week as if if it was
I
as
just
if it was
think we're weekly, even though we're
yeah.
from Tuesday to Thursday. It's only 2 days. Yeah, it
Um,
just seems like a week.
and a guy wants to know. And again, I don't know where the question went, but he wanted to know. Um, will is basically if social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube especially, is going to become the standard for people to communicate with their favorite creators. I think it already has, but I think that it's going to either. I think it'll evolve into something else. I think this is just a stepping stone.
Yeah, you get
What
rid of a lot of that transparency,
Yeah,
which is cool. Yeah.
yeah. I do like communicating with people. I do like doing I like doing indie vote. I like talking to people about their comics. I love and this is even educating because you find out people are doing that you might not be doing yourself.
Hmm.
Um I do like doing I haven't done many live streams for my company Last Call Comics. I haven't done much streaming for those, but I will start doing more in 2020 with those. But
I really love answering questions.
yeah, I think um, I
No,
do.
seriously, I do, because you never know what's going to come up,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
you don't get these in advance. So it's like, you can't sit there and go, I need my questions in advance so I know how to answer. It's like,
yeah,
no, here comes. You don't always make them up. You catch them right as they come in, and that's awesome.
yeah. Especially the ones from Indigo Radio. Those are always like, ugh, ugh.
Always welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
We still
and then
need to do that international show.
yeah,
We're gonna have to schedule a date for that here real
and
quick.
I apologize to people who send in questions from Indigo Radio in languages I can't understand because I
You have
know I
to.
can go into Google Translate and translate some of them, and I've done that before because some people they'll type in their native language,
Hmm.
and I'm like,
What we need to do is we need to do that, and you need to read them right off of the Google Translator. Because if it's anything like Google Voice, it's got to be hilarious.
yeah,
Then we can always blame the Google instead of our ineptitude for what's translated. Sorry, that's just the way it translates. What do
yeah,
you mean that word wasn't peanut butter? It's not our fault. It's what Google translated it as.
yeah. Do you guys like when Peanut Butter's working on a comic?
Yeah,
Yeah, Peanut Butter and comics are great.
peanut butter and comics,
Yeah, I
awesome.
haven't had that since I was a kid. Yeah, so, um,
Just
uh,
just just run them through the translator, and we'll make do. That's
yeah,
all.
I think that
And if it's not exactly right, hopefully the person listening on the other end will type in more explanation for you to run through the translator again. We'll get it
yeah.
answered. Yeah,
I always say
love that.
that I would like to do a show where I can burn off all the questions. I know John Campea does that with his movie show. He has to actually have special shows where he can burn off all the super chats because he gets so many that he has to dedicate 2-3 hours to answering questions. And I'm like, what a nice problem to have.
Well, I also want to say that when you type your question out in advance and you get it ready and put a nice graphic on it and all that, it gives you time to prepare an answer for
Mhm.
it. And a lot of this stuff, I would much rather be spontaneous about instead
Yeah,
of try to come across as a well, I'm a know-it-all because this and this has happened and that has happened, and it's like, no, dude, this is the way it works. Here it is.
Well, yeah, I
I
mean,
would much rather. It's much to me at least. It's much more transparent to get the question on the fly and be able to answer it on the fly.
and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like, look, when I do the graphics, Rain doesn't know the questions.
No, I
Yeah,
never.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Rain never, never,
No,
never knows the
I'm
questions.
reading them. I'm reading them cold on purpose because
Yeah,
that's the way I enjoy it.
yeah.
So,
Um, I know what they are because I do the graphics, but you
oh,
might
you
guys might,
will show me one every once
yeah,
in a while.
yeah,
The
yeah.
the, the really ridiculous ones that you get. Hey, so and
Yeah.
so sent this in. What do you think? We're going to cover this next. Oh, okay,
Well,
but the
and there
majority of
have
them I
been.
never see.
I think there have been like there's like one before they were like, no, we can't run that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
yeah.
like,
There has. I said, dude, we can't run that.
yeah.
No,
um,
and that if I'd have seen the one about the ejaculate being put into the printing process, I'd have begged for us not to run that too. So
yeah, that would have been.
TVMA DLSV people. The D stands for diversity.
So I hear something behind me.
Yeah, I thought I did too.
Yeah, um, yeah. I think that it's better to read questions that way because now you don't have that time to sit there and think of a, you know,
You can't make stuff up.
yeah, yeah. And then when they come in for the Ask Me Anything, I wish I could transfer those the graphics,
Pardon
but I
me.
have to read them, and they are, they can get pretty out there. Um, Everybody, if you are watching on, and if you don't have IndieVolt Radio yet, you should definitely sign up. It's on Android. All you gotta type is IndieVolt Radio. Type it into your Google Play Store. It'll pop up. Download it. We are going to be doing some restructuring in IndieVolt Radio. Got some more shows coming to that. Um, we
We're
have
open for
some,
your input on that.
yeah,
You should tell them that if there's stuff that we're playing, if you don't like listening to us, let us know.
yeah. Because
So
there's music there. There's us. We do some. Um,
no Barry Manilow though.
no Barry Manilow. No, I'm not paying ASCAP. Um, but yeah, and Randy also. No, well, let's see. We have one question from Indie Vote Radio,
Cool.
and this is from. I don't know. They didn't put a name. Okay. They want to know.
Why do you guys suck?
They actually ask why is it bad for publishers to unveil or is it bad for publishers to release their sales numbers to the public? Um,
Yes
I'll
and no.
I'll take a swing at this. I don't release our sales numbers to the public, but the people within the company, even the creators, know because I let them know, hey, here's how much your book sold.
Hmm.
So they know what to expect from me in payment.
Right.
Um, but putting that information out there, you can if you want. I don't think it hurts. Um, it only could hurt if you say something like, "Hey guys, we just moved 500 copies through Diamond," and it's like, "Holy crap, that's horrible! You're on probation." Because remember, there's a certain amount of comics you have to move every month to Diamond,
Hmm.
and if you don't move it, they put you on probation. And then if you continue to fail,
Then
you
you're
just
put
wait,
on double secret probation.
and then before they drop your comic from distribution. So when you go online and you're like,
Hoops,
"Hey guys,
hoops, 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 hoops.
yeah," I think it's like 1,700. It was at one point. It was 2,500 at one point. You had to move
It
a
was
month.
12 when I got out.
12, 12.
Yeah, it was 12 when I stopped doing Diamond. That was about 10, 12 years ago.
I remember when I was, with my first company, I was told that you had to move 2,500 a month. And so if you go online and you're like, "Hey guys, we just sold, 600 copies," I don't even think Diamond will push that purchase order through with 600 copies.
Oh, unless you're in their favor, because
Yeah.
you go and you look at what is it, Comicron,
Mhm.
Comicron.com. They've got stuff that I'm going through and reading this list of how many they've sold. Now that's way below the minimums.
Yeah.
That's way below the minimums. What the heck, you
Yeah.
know? But it's an image book or it's a mainstream book or
Mhm.
whatever, and hey, we'll cover those guys. But if you're a little dude and we can step on you, we're gonna step on you.
Yeah, and
And we don't care what kind of product you're doing, or that maybe your next book is going to be the book that's going to change the freaking industry. We can step on you, so we're stepping on you. You know,
what do you think, Randy? Like now, you see people. Well, Diamond's reaching out, and Diamond's making waves inward
I
to.
can't. I've been treated really great by Diamond.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Enjoy it while it lasts.
yeah.
You know, and do try to take as much advantage of that as you possibly can.
I'll tell you, it's like it's like wrestling. A couple years ago, well, many years ago now, um, some of the top guys had got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
They're very bad week for W. A very bad couple of months for WWE. Um, and one of them was getting ready to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was this solid like 3 weeks where they had no top tier star. So what they quickly did was they went and all of a sudden the mid card guys started being put in top guy
Yeah.
spots, and in order to shine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I'm like, well, this is kind of cool. You're seeing some of these guys who were mid carders get some TV time,
All right.
and I'm like, but how long is this gonna last? Because when this wrestler comes back, they're gonna jettison right back to the mid card, curtain
Yeah.
jerking,
Yep.
and sure as hell it happened. So I thought to myself, and I'm thinking now, yeah, Diamond might be shaking your hand now, but don't forget that the minute maybe Marvel and DC figure out what they've done wrong and they wake up and they start, if they wake up,
That might be a while.
yeah, but if they wake up tomorrow and they're like, oh, okay, and here's content, and by the way, we're making good comics again, and you start seeing these books take off and they actually get competent writers,
Mm-hmm.
and start, Diamond's going to forget all about those indie books again, and
Yep.
you thought you were the shit, and now you're walking back through Artist Alley, with your head tucked, and everybody's like, hey, remember that guy? He had a deal with Diamond. He was being distributed. Hey, man, how's Popsicle Stick Man? And you're, yeah, you're ready to do an anthology on it. We're doing all new stories. Not
There's a
with
lot of
Diamond.
there's a lot of characters out there that have just disappeared over
Mm-hmm.
time. Their creators haven't, but
Yeah.
they're set up at Artist Alley just like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do this guy. I used to do Popsicle Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so I think that you need to be very careful of that when you're doing comics, because we've seen creators do it. I mean, Randy says it all the time. It's not how big you are; it's how big they think you
Yep,
are.
exactly. And you hang around the business long enough, you'll see everything.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of different everythings.
You'll
So,
even get some bad advice from time to time.
yep, yeah, that
Um,
does happen.
it's weird
I
because
would say don't take our word for it, or their word for it. Please just do your research and
I
get your own education.
I listen I
Because
listen to,
you know if a company's still struggling
yeah.
out there, and if they look weak or they're shabby looking, that
Hmm.
they're not moving huge numbers, even if they're boasting that they're moving huge numbers. And comichron.com will tell you, and everybody should look at that, I think, and go back a couple of months and take a
Hmm.
look at it, because you can see what books are selling and what books aren't selling. You're going to sit there and be a little startled when you get towards the bottom of the list, and
Yeah.
you're like going, well, that book was done by so and so and such, and oh my goodness, aren't they writing a bunch of stuff for Marvel, or aren't they doing stuff for DC, and didn't they write such and such, and now they're over at Image and their book's selling 600.
Yeah. I mean, and you
You know,
gotta, and the other thing too is you
and
gotta remember something.
you know what we should do? We should probably go through it on the air sometime.
Yeah,
But
we should.
my biggest problem with that would be once you get past the first couple hundred books, nobody knows who it is.
Yeah.
What's that book? What's this book about?
I don't think that people
And we would end up being really cruel on some of these titles instead of positive. So,
I mean, the positive thing is that they are being distributed by Diamond, but the thing is, some people are.
and there's so many companies out there that you don't even know exist. What I didn't know exist. Vault Comics. I didn't know they existed until a couple of weeks ago, and I go and look them up on Comic-Con. They're selling big numbers. Some
Yeah,
three, 4 times over the companies that I'm aware of.
and
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 I'm like,
and
wow, where did they come from?
and the
You know?
Vault guys have always been very, very nice to me.
Oh, I'm not saying they're not.
Yeah,
They're
yeah, oh,
not.
yeah,
They
yeah,
all look like great. The products look great.
yeah, yeah. I,
I
I,
never heard of them before.
the editors are all. I've talked to the editors a few times. Yeah. Oh, let's see. James said, Eric says, why is IndieCron, which is why IndieCron is so important to keep us honest. That
Yes.
is true. That is
Yep.
true, Eric. To keep this industry, to keep
Well, the cool thing about
honest.
IndieCron, especially with them opening up to Kickstarters, is that they're going to start following money over top of agenda, and they're going to start following campaigns from both sides, so that you can compare. So and so did this at Kickstarter, and some of these guys, some of the bigger guys like Billy Tucci, are kicking out Kickstarters and Indiegogos for the same product,
Hmm.
and you'll be able to keep tab of all of that stuff. I think that's important. You need to go out and see what's big and what's not big.
Raycar says maybe that is what's needed. That's true, Raycar.
But crowdfunding is a whole different avenue from what is normally looked at as the direct market. And a lot of these direct market guys, even not just the direct market, but the indie market guys, don't even want to take into account some of these crowdfunding guys that are making huge money,
Mhm.
whether they agree with them socially or not. You know, you have to look at the money is still green on both sides of that fence, and you have to look at all of that product, all of that comic product as being comic product. You know,
Yeah.
sequential art.
Yeah, I don't think we talked about this last week, but there's this idea that indie comics do not, people say that there's a definition between what an indie comic is versus what some of the crowdfunding comics because of who they're made by are, and
Mm-hmm.
we don't really believe that. We believe that a comic is an indie comic is an indie comic. But and we definitely like those numbers that they're pulling in. Eric
Well,
says,
even if the propaganda, even if the comic is propaganda and horribly politically bent, left, right, or wherever, and they're making hard money, we need to see why that is and why they're making that money.
mhm,
Because the really outlandish ones, the crazy fringe ones, are literally only going to make fringe money, and I'm sure you'll see that, and they're only going to make small amounts.
yeah.
That the books that are going to make the biggest money are the books that cater to the bigger audience or the biggest audiences. And I think
Um,
that's the problem with the mainstream right now, because they want to throw their blinders on, and these comics weren't meant for you. It's like, well, screw you.
yeah, right. Eric, I'll reach out to him. I'll reach out to him, teach to him and have him come on. Um, if they want, be happy to talk about indie crime and why it's important because it is very important for us to keep that type of numbers. I mean, those numbers show exactly what someone is doing, and they could help and be educational to people who are coming in the industry who they're talking to
And again,
someone they find that person's full of shit.
it'll help. Yeah, exactly. It'll help break down some of that chest thumping.
Yeah,
Well, we're the second biggest, largest comic book company on this side of the Fifth Avenue.
yeah.
You know?
I
Yeah.
happen to know.
Okay.
I
Let's look at
happen.
those numbers.
I happen to know that Last Call Comics is the largest production company with a gnome as a mascot that has the colors green and
With a
yellow.
gnome that carries a beer mug.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah, the largest company, and yeah. So qualifiers, man, qualifiers.
Right there. There you go.
Um, Randy, if someone were looking to get into comics today, if they were looking to get into comics and they had no idea where to start, are the
Pardon me.
conventions still important? Is it still? I think it was Scott McCloud. I could be wrong, but I think it was Scott that said 3 years. Go to Comic Con, check it out. Second year,
Well,
start building up.
if you're quoting from Understanding Comics, understand that Understanding Comics come out 20 years ago.
Hmm.
You know, there and that
Is it outdated?
that book is literal. No, I'm not saying it's outdated at all. I'm saying, but it is from a 2 decades old perspective.
Hmm.
You really comics or conventions are just a small portion of where you can learn this stuff nowadays. It's just that you have to be really careful of your sources that you're learning it from. Everything needs a grain of salt. Just like talking to, if you're listening to a particular YouTube site, just remember it's the same thing as talking to somebody at a show
Hmm.
who's giving an opinion most of the time and not giving facts. And you really need to go out there and decide what's opinion, what's facts, what's BS, and what's not. And who's they you can say you are whatever, but are they?
Right.
They need to be able to go out and prove it. Do they have 50 books that they've printed in the past? Do they have 100 copies of a newspaper that they gave away for free? Do they have a publishing company where they print a wide variety of different product? Do they have a radio station, or what they
Yeah.
have, what they don't have, and how that fits into the industry, and how that's going to help you improve your standing in the industry.
Hmm.
That's really what you have to look at,
Yeah. And also,
because there's a lot of flash. It was a funky flashman back in the New Gods, back when Kirby and Lee were arguing. Stan Lee, Jack Kirby were arguing. Um, Jack Kirby created a character called the Funky Flashman, who was the
Mhm.
big showman guy. Hey kids, Excelsior, let's go here, and ran him through New Gods. It turned out to be nothing but a carnival barker, like the Wizard and the Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to that guy behind the curtain,
Mhm.
because it's not how big I am; it's how big you think I am. They'll keep looking
Mhm.
at that large head hanging over the throne.
Yeah.
You know, it's that way. Comics are very much like that, and you need to really get in there and take a look.
And someone could say, and there are people who say the Funky Flashman was Kirby jabbing at Stan. Um,
Oh, that's why he was created. You know,
um, Eric says,
comics are a great communication medium.
Eric says, tell your story, put a teaser up for free, go on YouTube shows. When you do cons, you're spending money. So wait till you're ready to do that. Yeah, I mean, cons are expensive. Cons are not cheap. You have a lot of things to consider with Comic Cons. Uh, travel costs, so there's gas. If your car needs to have any work done to it before taking on a 1,000-mile road trip, Eric and I just did one
Oh,
um to New Orleans, where we drove from Michigan to New Orleans. It's over 1,000 miles. So you gotta take that into perspective. You're gonna miss out on work if you have a
dependable
job.
transportation is important.
Yep.
Yep,
There's lodging, there's food costs,
yep.
there's also the price of being at the show. Tables range from as low as $50 to all the way up to, for an artist alley booth, um,
There
like I
also
think
there also needs to be
400.
a level of sensibility applied there. You guys did New Orleans because it was a Wizard World show.
Yeah,
For one, Wizard World has a decent reputation, at least for now, for
my stock is
conventions.
up to 15 cents. 15 cents, by the way.
It's up to 15 cents. It's
Yeah,
doubled its price within
yeah,
the last 2 weeks.
yeah.
Wow, that's an up and coming stock. Then, um, there's a level of sensibility. You went to New Orleans because you wanted to stretch your market.
Yeah,
You wanted other people. It was a market you had never done before,
right,
just like you did Sioux City
right.
a while back. You wanted to get that last call name out there in front of noses of people that had never seen you before.
That's right.
So it was worth the time. It was worth the trip. It was worth the table expense and the overhead in order to get out there. Even if you might not have sold a lot, at least you got your name out there in front of other places. And not everybody's going to be able to do that, especially when they're first starting. They're
Yeah.
not going to be able to spread their brand or their person or their IP around as far as possible. But the net is a great way of hopefully being seen by more people and as much as possible.
And if you're gonna be a publisher, you have to do that. You got to go out there and show people, like, hey, you got your idea as a publisher is you're pushing that people, you're taking people's books and you're taking them out there and giving them to the masses.
Yeah.
And it's
I didn't say Sioux City,
oh no, it's Sioux Falls.
Sioux
I guess
Falls,
you're saying, yeah, Sioux
Sioux
Falls, yeah,
City.
Sioux Falls, yeah, Sioux Falls, yeah.
All right, Sioux
Um,
Falls
yeah,
instead of
yes,
Sioux
yeah,
City,
Sioux Falls, South Dakota, yeah.
South Dakota.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then Rob says, rate the show on Gradacom so other creators are warned, and that is
that could be
also
important too. See, I didn't know Gradacon existed, so
that's Rob's
thanks to Rob.
one of Rob's newest investments and his newest creations is Gradacom.
Gradacon,
Yeah, which
cool.
is it's so the indie creators, and I think it's
Yeah.
more for. I think Rob did this more for people who are selling comics more so because
But
there are several sites.
he sees a necessity and a chance to fill it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So you can talk about hey, this is not a good show for because me and Eric talk about it. Is this a good show for books? Is
Hmm.
this a print show? Is this a toy show? Um, and you sometimes you get there and you find out, oh my gosh, this is a toy show. No one's here to buy comics, and you're about to learn a very expensive lesson. Also, keep in mind this, everyone watching, when you sign up for certain shows, some of those shows aren't like you can't get into Artist Alley because of maybe you're not the artist or you're just a writer, so they won't let you in Artist Alley. Um, and if they find out, I've heard of people being removed the next day because
Wow.
they're not supposed to be there. Um,
Really?
yeah, they found out that you're just a figurehead, like you're not supposed to be in Artist Alley. You need to get one exhibitor tables, and exhibitor tables or vendor tables or small press tables. They have all kind of names for these things. Are usually higher priced than your Artist Alley table. Again, Artist Alley tables anywhere from $50 to $400, $500.
Mm.
Um, the exhibitor tables start at about five, and they go all the way up to about $3,000 for
$5?
500,
Oh, 500.
500 all the way up to about.
Oh,
I've
so
seen them.
my
I've seen them.
tables are too cheap. Is that what you're saying for my shelf?
Yeah, yeah. I've seen tables go up to $3,000, and that was just the space, guys. That's not the table.
Might
That's
have a
not.
price hike in the future.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. Rob says, and also celebrate good shows and good promoters. It's about bringing accountability to cons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like accountability in that, yeah, you brought people through the door. There was a show recently here. Apparently, they brought 16 people through the door.
Yes.
16 people came through the door. Now, one of the toy vendors at that show said he did very well. Said that he made lots of money. Um, I like to know how.
Only
Uh,
takes one. It
yeah,
only it's like working at a slot machine.
yeah. It only takes one good
Only,
sale though,
it only takes one good sale. And
because
one pull of that lever. Ching,
at
ching,
the
ching, ching, ching.
tables, if
Everything
the,
lines up right. You have a great show.
if the tables are like $15 each, and you bought three tables, and then the con was right around the corner from your house, or you just
Yep.
bought a couple things, set them out. Somebody came in there, bought your $600 action figure you had sitting up there. Hey, sweet, I made money. But
It's Garage Con.
yeah, yeah. And I've been to a few of those garage cons. Be willing. Also, I meet so many creators who are not able to do this. Be willing to travel. Be willing to get out there and travel for days. Cons are 3 days long. You know, if you're gonna go out there, you gotta be able to tell the husband, tell the wife, tell the girlfriend, the boyfriend, hey, I'm gonna be gone for the next week. Because remember, it's a 3 day show. You want to leave before.
And don't put it on Facebook unless you have somebody still staying at your house. So.
Yeah, oh yeah. Be careful with certain things. You don't want people. Hey, I'm going for a week. Hey, he's got that new TV. Um, but just be willing to and understand. And if not, then that's when you want to get a publisher and ask the publisher. But don't be shocked when that publisher says, "Hey, you need to come to this show,"
Yeah.
because people like buying comics from the person, their community, from the person
And
who made the book.
I don't know of any alternative company that tries to discourage people from doing shows. If they do, there's probably a problem with that company.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you want to be out there, you want to push your brand, you want to be vocal, you want to be seen. So
It has gotten expensive for me to try to get creators in the shows because it used to be, Randy, where I could walk up to a creator, I could walk up to a Comic Con and go to the ticketing section and say, oh, by the way, I need two more badges because I've got talent coming.
mhm.
And they're starting. I don't know if anybody knows this in the chat. They're starting to restrict how many badges you can get.
yeah. Well,
So,
that's because a lot of these conventions realize that they've been abused over the years
mhm.
by people saying that, I got people coming and I need free. That's all money that they're missing out on by not getting that pay coming in at the door.
Right, but now they're limiting what you can even buy. So like, I
There
don't
are
want to go.
entire cosplay troops out there that
Yeah.
get free admittance that ask for extra badges
Hmm.
because they have buddies coming, and all of these freebie people come in and they don't do anything to help the convention. But then thanks for getting us in for free.
I've done a con and I walked to the back. I said, "Hey, can I get I got two artists coming. I need to get two more badges."
Hmm.
And it's like, "You come to get one more." I'm like, I got artists coming. Did you not hear me?" Like, there's two of them. Why can't I got the money here. I'm willing to pay for them. Here's $160.
They can
You
pay to
know,
come in.
yeah.
Yeah,
And they're like, "No, you're gonna get one more unless you had more tables." So
yeah.
I mean, there becomes
Well,
a thing where
that's also a consideration. There's only so many people that can sit behind a table at one time.
sure,
So
sure, sure. And I mean, it's, typically, it's if it's
you can
typically,
always do that pass off like a baton
yeah,
on a track race.
eight foot table could typically fit four people, and that's why it's important that a lot of people not, you know, bring the whole entire family with them. I told people before I've got down to I got called by an artist before years ago, my first company. I told me he was out front in the concourse. I went up there to go give him his badge so he could come back. I get up there to the front. There is there he is. There's his wife and five children, and they're looking at me like, "Where's the rest of the badges?" And whoa, where are all these people? It's my family. They're coming with me. They're not gonna. They can't all fit behind the table. What are you talking about? But yeah, Rob says that's because the badges are cheaper than tickets. But ask to
Yeah.
talk to the promoter. Never talk to staff in those moments. If you can get to the promoter, some shows are so big the promoter goes up and
Yep.
you know he's
Rules are rules.
yeah,
That's
he's
all you get.
yeah. And sometimes the promoter, if you talk to the promoter, you'll put him in a sticky situation because the staff will say, "Well, you told me." Um, and like for instance, and I don't know, he's probably not in the chat today, but Mark, who runs Grandpa's Comic Con, he's a hard man to find because he's around that show. It's a massive show, and he's putting out several small
It's a big
fires,
show. Yeah.
and
He's always putting out fires.
it's very hard to find him. But if you can find him, and he might not have time to deal with your situation, then you feel a
Yeah,
little
but
pissy because
don't be afraid to look for him though if you want to drive a point home.
yeah. Yeah, don't be afraid to go find them. Go find if you have to find them and see what they can do. And then to Rob's point, maybe talk to them before the show. During the show, it's probably not the best time to deal with it. He says also deal with that at setup. Yeah, if you can get in there and get your tickets before setup, that's fine. But make sure that you have those talents know that they're going to be away for they're going to be away for a week. When I counted how long I was gone to New Orleans, it was 5 days, I guess, 5 6 days we were
Yeah.
technically gone.
Yeah. That was a road trip.
Yeah. So um yeah, keep that in mind. So Randy, we're just about to
Well, before we go, I want to say hello to Anita and Jim if they're still listening. They're listening off of my Facebook page, and
okay.
I appreciate them deeply
Hello guys, how are
for
you
listening
guys?
in. So,
Uh we
yesterday we buried Black Belt Perez, so that was rather sad, but unexpected. Well, kind of expected, but unexpected of his passing. So
yeah.
he's gone.
Uh
I'll miss those weekly calls.
yeah,
I will.
he watched the show.
He
Um
did watch the show. Yeah,
yeah.
his favorite announcer though was Lola. He had a couple of major reasons for liking Lola. He
Yeah.
wasn't he wasn't afraid to tell me. So,
Yeah, I wish that I got to get a chance to talk to him. He never came in the chat.
no,
He,
he was sick last couple of years. He
mhm.
was really hard to move and hard to get around, and he was on dialysis a lot. And we had long conversations. But he helped me get through my divorce back when, wow, many decades ago. Um, we got drunk together. That Mad Dog 2020 story was involves him, and he was just a good friend for many decades. So, and we
Mhm.
talked comics. He was just as mad at the market as I was, and he was around when we were printing. I was printing Arrow, and
Mm,
um, I don't think he ever came to any of the shows or the Flint comic stuff. I did supply him with Flint comics as often as I could, but
mm.
I hadn't seen him in physically. I hadn't seen him in quite a while. But we had we would talk for hours to the dismay of the wife, um, longer than what we would talk.
Yeah. The
About everything. He was a hardcore Greek Orthodox, and we would talk about everything. So
yeah. There's you mentioned Mad Dog 2020. I had a girlfriend who was a dancer. It's weird with me in that. And she preferred Mad Dog 2020. That's what
yeah,
she wanted to drink. That and Wild Irish Rose.
I still can't drink Welch's grape juice to this day, or a grape Kool Aid.
Yeah.
Anything that's grape flavored, grape jelly, I
Hmm.
just can't. I just can't.
You guys got that drunk on grape, huh? Ugh.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was probably the most drunk I've ever been. And
um,
definitely the longest hangover to chase off.
yeah, that girl. My
And
mother told me.
the only time I literally crawled to bed too. I remember that.
My mother told me long ago before I met this girl. She says, um, if you see somebody that wakes up in the morning and the first thing they got to do is run and go get like a nice big cup of ice water, they're probably an alcoholic. And I never thought about that, but I remember that's the first thing this girl would do. She'd wake up in the morning in my apartment and she'd jump up and she'd run right to uh, the kitchen sink, grab all the ice she could, pour water in, and just guzzle it. And I mean, she was a dancer, so imagine she was drinking at work, but
Yeah,
oh, she needed water.
I bet
Like,
her resistance level was way high though for alcohol.
oh, it was, it was,
Probably took a lot to get her drunk.
it was. Like I said, MD 2020 is what she wanted to drink. Um,
Oh man.
MD
I,
2020,
I haven't. I honestly, I haven't drank that since that day,
yeah.
and it has been decades.
Apparently, it's the official drink of the year now. People are taking pictures of bottles of MD 2020 because it's 2020. So people,
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
people are drinking
I hear you.
bottles of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
We want to thank everybody for joining us. If you want to send in a question, you can do that by going to IndieVolt Live at indievolt.com. Include IndieVolt Live in the subject field. Please keep those emails to 90 words or less, and we'll put them here on the show. If
Please,
you
please
want,
try to keep those comic related,
yeah, please if you can,
or thereabouts. Genres fine.
yeah.
Conventions, anything. Yeah.
Or if you want to talk about
If
your
you
love
want,
life,
if
we'll
you
do
want to
that
talk
too.
your love life, we can answer those questions too.
Yeah. And please remember, you can take Indie Vote with you wherever you go. Indie Vote Radio is the perfect companion to our official website, indievote.com. Indie Vote Radio plays the best in indie music, entertainment news, and more 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You get music from talent like Chemical, Park Squares and Alleys, and Dimswin. Download their Indie Vote Radio app on Android's Google Play Store or listen in with the streamer app on iOS. You can also check out Indie Vote Radio by visiting our official site, indievote.com, and utilizing the built-in player right there on the front page. And we talked about it earlier. IndieVolt TV is readily available right now on the Roku and coming very soon to Amazon Fire Stick and more. Stream independent movies, music videos, wrestling, original documentaries, and more on IndieVolt TV, and it is completely 100% free. Find IndieVolt TV by searching the channel store on your Roku device or Roku enabled television, and make sure while you're there. Again, this week streaming just added is Cybertech episode 1, uh, from Sean May. It is a very good show, and we're gonna have Sean on the show pretty soon to talk to us about it and that in the comic. He's got like 8 issues of the comic ready, so
Cool.
out.
Awesome.
So yeah, check it out. Randy, where can people
You can
find
find me
you?
on the Zim Geek channel on YouTube. Please subscribe. There will be new content up there eventually. I just haven't done anything lately. Other than that, my next show is the Great Lakes Con that's coming up in the middle of February
Mm-hmm.
down in Warren, I believe. Warren, I think it
Yep,
was Warren or Plymouth. One of
Sworn.
those. Warren.
Yeah.
Yep. Then after that, my show is on April 18th here in Flint. It's a one-day show at the downtown Flint Farmers Market, and then June 28th at the Saginaw SVRC Marketplace. And that both of those shows will be a lot of fun. They're inside of uh, market, a farmer's market where there's plenty of food, So come and
Yep.
spend the day and have fun talking to
Randy,
people
who
and eating lots of great food.
now has the only comic book show in April now. Like,
Only one in April here in the area.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we did have a miracle charity con that was planned that I found out yesterday is no longer happening. That was going to be in April. One of the reasons I moved my April date to the 18th.
Yeah.
But they're not going to happen now. So
Yeah. And after that, we will let's see, gentlemen, send me your schedule so they can be featured on Comic Conventions Highway on indieadvocates.com. Sure will, Rob. We'll
I'll
do
get
that.
that done. Yeah.
And thank you for joining us. Thank everyone out there for joining us. Thank you all for listening to us on IndieVolt Radio. We really appreciate that. And we will see you back here Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Oh, let's see. I was
Yeah,
like,
man.
oh, you notice we feature IndieVolt and Indie Advocates now? I did see that, Rob. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
spreading the word. We really appreciate that as well. I'm gonna go over there and I think I'll put it up on the site. I'll put it up on the Facebook that we're there too.
Rob's been pushing us on his homepage on Facebook too, on his timeline, quite
Yeah,
often. Every time that we're on the air, we deeply appreciate that too.
we do. Thank you,
You,
Rob.
you can catch me on Facebook as well if you want.
Yeah,
So
and of course I'm at Kid V. If you notice a new name, Septimius Servers. That is my new Roman name. Hail Septimius. Um, so I'll see you guys later. You can always message me on Facebook and you can also message us at IndieVolt.
we find you under Septimius.
Yeah, no, I don't no, I'm still like
That
yeah,
sounds like a bad drug, man.
it does.
Have trouble staying awake at night? Try Septimius.
All right, guys, thank you for watching. We will see you all back here Tuesday, unless something really bizarre happens. We have to break in. Until then,
Take care, everybody.
Grant.
Yep.
He's been
Sorry, I
Randy.
didn't mean to step on you, buddy.
Oh, it's okay. He's been Randy Zim,
Yep.
and we will see you all
Next time.
next time.
Thanks for being here, everybody. See you soon.